Hi, I'm retired NYPD Detective Vic Ferrari, and welcome to NYPD Through the Looking Glass live stream. Before we get started, I encourage you to check out my Amazon author page, where you'll find my series of behind-the-scenes NYPD books. They're $10 paperback, $2.99 ebook download, including my latest NYPD Behind the Blue Wall of Silence. Christmas is coming at $10. Throw it in your stocking stuffer. Tonight, my co-host is retired NYPD Detective Marique Bartolis, author of 20 and Out, a compilation of chaos experience while serving 20 years in the New York City Police Department. Marique is also the host of Mons on the Mic podcast, and you can find it on YouTube. Marique, how are you today?
Hey, what's going on, Vic? How's everything? How's it going over there?
I'm doing absolutely great. Marique, please tell us, before we get going, tell us a little bit about your podcast and where our listeners can find it.
So I'm on YouTube and Spotify. I basically talk about the breaking news, stuff that's going on, but then I do a lot of background stuff, declassified CIA operations that people don't really know about, like, Operation Northwoods or what really happened at the Gulf of Tonkin, and kind of do like a little detective work, trying to read between the lines and figure out how those past operations relate to the news that's going on today. And then I throw in like crazy cop videos and comment on the hilarity of it, or just really, it speaks for itself, honestly, some of those chases.
Just a couple of your episodes, they're very interesting, and I'm no expert on cloud pivot, but it wasn't.
Thank you. Well, I try and make it a little interesting. It's hard to make this stuff funny. I'm not, a comedian or anything, but I think it's, people don't know this stuff. I find it fascinating. So I thought maybe some other people would, and it also applies to today. So, but it's fun to do, but it was your idea for the podcast. So I give all the credit to you. It was 100% your idea. So thank you for that.
So I'm going to read a couple of stories about New York City, especially the NYPD related, and I want your take on it. Now, I was active, for those of you that don't know, I was active with the NYPD from 1987 to 2007. What years were you active?
2002 to 2022. So we overlapped a little bit during the good years.
Yeah, during the good years, you kind of got screwed on the way out the door because the job
Yeah.
really changed a lot. Okay, so let's go with the first story. The city council plans to ram through a controversial bill giving the NYPD's watchdog, I'm guessing that's CCRB or Civilian Complaint Review Board, direct access to body-worn camera footage, despite cops ripping it as an unnecessary power grab. Outgoing council speaker Adrian Adams, who I guess isn't cop-friendly, will be putting the first-of-its-kind law up for a vote for a 51-member body next week, while privately boasting to members that it will be part of her legacy. The bill was introduced by Eric Adams and co-sponsored by a slate of lefty lawmakers, including the Democratic Socialists of America council members. Your thoughts on this?
So CCRB is, I think it's a joke, right? So I got, I don't know, 6 or 8 unfounded or unsubstantiated CCRBs in my career. The more active of a cop you are, the more CCRBs you're going to get. So it's not a reflection on whether you are beating people up in the street or not. It's a reflection on how many interactions you have with people. It's just an odds and numbers game, right? So like one time that just came to mind as you're talking, I'm taking the train to CCRB because it's downtown Manhattan. There's no parking, right on Gold Street, I think. There's no parking. It's a nightmare. So you take the train to the subway. So I'm on the train and I'm reading the book Circle of Six, which is about the murder of Officer Padilla when it was an ambush and he was murdered by the Liberation. Yeah. So I'm reading this book. So now I'm in a rage, right? Because I'm angry that these guys set this guy up. And now I go into CCRB. And, you go into this little interview. First, you got to sit in a room and they call you when it's convenient for them. It's an all-day event. Then I got to go in this room and I have this like 21-year-old prior like Whole Foods employee reject, no life experience, lived in a safe neighborhood his whole life with his corduroy jacket and his elbow pads, judging something that I did that was like a life or death thing where I'm fighting with somebody and like, well, you threw a punch and you assaulted this guy type of nonsense. And they look for a reason to hang you, right? They're always looking for a reason to get you into trouble. And it doesn't come from a background of like experience in law enforcement. It comes from like, I don't know anything except the YouTube videos that I watch, and I'm too scared to take the police test, and I really hate cops because I got a drinking ticket when I was 16. So I'm going to go and join this thing and just hammer cops for no particular reason other than I have a position of authority over them. The whole thing's ridiculous. it's infuriating. But getting access to the body cam. So if the rumor was when the body cams first came out that that like internal affairs could remote access it, right? Like they can watch you at any time, whether it's on or off. They're
And
spying
that
on you,
rumor
right? So it's like
probably spread.
like wildfire, so, like, I mean, when I was in Intel at the time, so I wouldn't let anybody come into my office with the cameras on because I have all kinds of sensitive stuff going on. I don't want, like, informant information that might be note-taking or something because I don't know if they can remote access this, but if Adams I was pro body cam because I was in a situation where I ended up getting jammed up because a former deputy mayor whatever, made allegations that I didn't provide a shield number, and I absolutely did. And I was like, if I had a body cam, I could have hit play, and this whole thing would be just taken care of. But then it ends up being my word against, a political, powerful person. So I'm all for the body cams, but the remote access of them, I think it's a double-edged sword. Are they going to be able to remote access it when it's not live? Are they going to be able to see like when I'm in an RMP or a police car and I'm driving around and BSing with my partner about, my family issues or problems you're having or anything. Like where's the level of privacy going to stop here? Because you can't, or are they just going to be able to access it if it's activated? But they're going to have access to it anyway if it's when it's activated. So I don't really see a problem with it. I think all it does is actually help cops because it shows that we're not doing corrupt stuff. We're not doing crooked stuff. We're not beating people once the handcuffs are on. None of the allegations that people make that we're like evil cops and we just, beat the balls off of people on a regular basis is really true. So, so I'm okay with it. I'm concerned about where is the limit to that access to those body cameras going to be at.
So when you came on the job and body cams started after I retired, how did cops embrace that?
I think the general consensus was like, I don't really want to wear this. It's another, I think it was more a concern because it's like, you're going to be critiqued even more. So it wasn't a concern like, oh man, I'm doing illegal stuff and I'm going to get busted now. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that wasn't anything. I think it was more like how we're already critiqued massively. Like you got some guy downtown sitting in a nice air conditioned office judging the seconds of a decision that you made to either like save a life or not. And now you're going to be more scrutinized. But my thing was it took away the ability for cops to be comfortable to speak. Like as soon as those cameras came out, I remember I went to like it was a call for burglary in progress, right? I'm in Intel. I was around the block, so I'm like, I'll go back up, the boys or whatever. And I get there and it's like 6 cops and the perp is sitting there in handcuffs. And I see the cameras going, that flash like green and then they do the beep beep when they're live. So like everybody's live, everybody's being recorded. And because of that, everybody's scared to talk to the perp. And you kind of want to talk to the perp. Like that was part
Of
of the
course.
like you gotta first of all, when you're a rookie, especially, you gotta learn how to schmooze people. Right. That's like the art the whole game. The most important thing is your mouth. So nobody's schmoozing this guy. So I don't really care that I'm being recorded. I'm like, yo, bro, what's going on? How's everything going? Just to calm him down and to judge where he's at. Is he super hyped up? Like, where's his head at to try and figure out what's going on? And then for like intel gathering purposes, like if he says something to me that has nothing to do with his collar, like, yo, I want to talk to you about something. Now it's on body camera. So now if he's arrested for something that's got to do with a defense attorney, then it gets out that he might be arrested. So like that kind of aspect of it, I was like, it kind of made cops kind of clam up a little bit and get more nervous than handling stuff. But I think as it's gone on, cops have become more used to it and they're not so nervous anymore about it. But it was more a concern for they're going to jam me up for dropping an F-bomb instead of like, man, I beat up Jimmy when the cuffs were on and now I'm going to go to get in trouble for it. So there wasn't that concern. It was more like scared to talk and scared to do anything. More hesitation, which gets you killed.
Well, and you're right. I mean, in the short game, it shows the cops didn't put their hands on anybody. The prisoner was treated appropriately. But like you said, if the guy turns around and wants to talk and wants to give up his friends or give up what's in apartment 4C, and that becomes discovery, the defense attorney gets a hold of that. And sometimes the guy will just a spontaneous utterance. Listen, I'll tell you right
Right.
now. And I've had perps say that. I mean, some
Yeah.
guys clam up and some criminals will say, listen, I don't want to go back. I'll tell you right now, where the stash is if you let me go. And it's like, well, I can't do that, but we can work something out. But now he's already showing that he wants to make inroads to be a CI or wants to work out a deal. And defense attorney gets on it, especially if he's part of an organized crew or something, he can get himself killed. But if the city is going to monitor the NYPD 24/7, that's kind of the way it sounds like the way they're going, right? Why doesn't the city do the same thing what's going on in public classrooms?
Good
So if the
question.
public has the right to know how the NYPD interacts with the public on a daily basis, why can't parents or an outside agency monitor what's going on in New York City public classrooms?
Totally agree with that. And the argument I think against that is that, well, it's little children and, right to privacy or whatever. But if you have a closed link, right, that you have to have access to, that you have to put a password in, and then you can gain access to that camera. And it goes through a computer check system where they see, like, yeah, this person is authorized to view that camera. Then what is the problem with it? Because during COVID, parents, when the kids were being homeschooled, parents found out that there was a lot of stuff going on in those classrooms that they did not agree with. And I think I don't see a problem with that at all. I think teachers, I mean, I'm sure you had to run into it. I ran into a lot of teachers that had weed, coke. Yeah, like they don't.
Yeah.
We get random drug tested. Your teachers that are teaching your kids in school, they don't get random drug tested, and they are not always up to no good. They're not angels out there. So I'm all about that. There should be more oversight in the classrooms. These people are teaching your young children's minds and, planting seeds in there that maybe you don't want planted or have nothing to do with school. Totally agree with that.
And the reason that won't happen is the United Federation of Teachers, and I don't know if Randy Weingart is still the president, but she still wields an immense amount of power there. She would scream from the highest rafters of City Hall that this is, Gestapo-like it's okay for the cops,
Right.
but I can
Right.
guarantee you the teachers union, which they're not cop friendly, there would be so much pushback on that the city would turn around, and I don't think the city would even have the balls to even bring that up.
Well, she wouldn't have any defense to support her taking care of the teachers that are jammed up in those rubber rooms or whatever, because now you have it recorded evidence of whatever they were doing wrong. So now you can't defend them anymore. So she's
Right.
not going to go along with that, right? Let's defend the useless teachers and protect their jobs and keep paying them a salary and not get teachers in there that are. But then you have the charter schools, right? So what happens with that? Do we put
Well,
things in
then
there? Will they go along with that? They should, if they started that, if the charter schools started, we're going to put cameras in every classroom so that the parents can see what the students are being taught, how their kids are acting. Like if I'm in a bad neighborhood and I got a bunch of little hooligans running around my classroom and half my time is spent trying to discipline as opposed to teach, I want a camera in there. This is why I can't teach. This is why my whole class is failing, right? Because I got to spend 75% of my day disciplining these little brats instead of actually teaching, 10 plus 10 is 20. I would want that to show this is what's going on. These are the problem children. This is why they're being expelled from school. This is why they're in detention all the time. I think that's a great idea. They should have cameras in every classroom.
yeah, but
Let's start a
right.
petition.
But now there's a move by the teachers union and these commies. They don't want the police in the schools anymore. They don't want that. They're looking to push them out. And it's like, okay, well, when you get slashed with a razor or there's a shooting or, but, I'm not a big fan of the teachers union. Okay. So the next story,
Yeah, me neither.
yeah, well, most cops aren't because we have to deal with the teachers a lot of times. An unprecedented multi-agency task force is prepared to handle a tsunami of tourists expected to descend on the New York City metro area for a slew of high-profile events, from the World Cup matches across the river in New Jersey to the 4th of July celebrations. We have the equivalent of 9 Super Bowls happening in New York City. Emergency Management Commissioner Zach Isol, if that's really a name, told the Post on Wednesday they're expecting about 3 billion plus people to watch the World Cup next summer. This sounds like it's going to be a complete clusterfuck in New Jersey because, from my experience, soccer fans lose their mind when that World Cup, and it's not, you can't just point to one ethnic group. The UK, you got the hooligans, you got the South Americans that go on a stabbing spree. What is that, Roosevelt Avenue? Is that Roosevelt
Yes.
Avenue in Queens?
Roosevelt
Because they
Avenue.
flew
Yep.
us out there a couple of times, and it's like Mexico loses, they go into the Colombian bar and start some shit, and someone breaks a chair over someone's head, and then Peru wins, and then they go in and they start fucking with them. And what's your take on what's they're going to have to? New Jersey is going to need the NYPD across the river, I would think.
Well, you would think, but they're not going to take our help because there's always that competition where, the NYPD has the best resources, but nobody else wants to admit that and they don't want to admit they can't handle it. But that just sounds like Boku overtime when, overtime isn't going to be taxed starting January 1st. So that sounds like because they passed the bill, right? So there's no tax on overtime. So that sounds like there's going to be a ton more cops retiring because they're going to make a fortune, right? Because they're going to have foot posts. They're going to have the details outside all those bars where all those people are going to get drunk. You're going to have an uptick in all kinds of drunken disorderly. You're going to have like stabbing, slashings. Yeah, it's going to be the subway's going to be a disaster. They're going to have more people in the subway because what they would do when I worked in transit my first year, they would go drunk, right, in the bars, and they would stumble down the stairs, but they would like pass out before they made it onto the platform. Before they made the turnstile, they would like slouch down, and you'd be like kicking them, like, "Yo, bro, wake up!" They're out cold, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not carrying him up the stairs, so you got to like stand there and make sure he doesn't get robbed by somebody." It's going to be a disaster. The traffic is going to be it's going to be like Unga all over again. This sounds horrible. Thank goodness I'm not anywhere near there. I don't want to deal with that.
I can't even imagine. I know what you're saying about New Jersey probably wouldn't want the NYPD's help, but I think at some point, and I mean, we did have a good working relationship with New Jersey during 9/11. I mean, there was Jersey
Right.
State Troopers over there. I mean, they really helped out quite a bit. So maybe that's changed, but I can't see how you can have the World Cup in New Jersey without the NYPD involved in it somehow.
But plus with the terrorism threat, I mean, that's just that you're asking for some suicide bomb psycho to decide to, yeah, I know. But these are the contingencies you got to prepare for. Like, our counter, I got to say, as much as I love the NYPD. I'm so like we have our agencies and our technology and the counterintelligence guys and the intel. They're sick. Their capabilities are unbelievable. We have everything covered, anything you can imagine. So they would be dumb not to take help from us. But at the same time, they're going to be working overtime, running through threats. They're going to be checking out all avenues, posting. When I worked in Intel, we would have to do that with like those parties, the jump up parties that they would have. We'd have to run through and see, where the jump up parties and what's going to happen. So I'm probably going to be parties like backyard parties are going to, and then rival gangs are going to start shooting because they know that, Pablo's going to be having people over at his house to watch the World Cup. Now let's go, we got beef with him because we have all the MS-13. It's still active, all that stuff. It's going to be
Well, you hope
interesting.
ICE can kind of thin the herd with a lot of this stuff before the summer. Hopefully, they can disrupt a lot of things. But you're right, and there's definitely a presence in the metro area. All right, so
Yeah.
this you're going to get a kick out of it. Well, it's not a funny story, but an NYPD Academy recruit, guy in the police academy, was arrested Thursday for allegedly raping a woman he met online while claiming he was studying to be a masseuse. Ahmed Elena Tawani, 24 years old. I'm guessing he's Irish. No.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know too many Ahmeds in the police academy, who began his training in late August, part of the largest class sworn in the department in nearly a decade, allegedly forced the woman into oral sex on October 4th or 5th at the Woodside Motor Inn. Sounds like a nice place. According to a complaint filed in Queens Court, Elena Tawane allegedly grabbed the victim by her head, forced her into a vile act as she begged him to stop. The disturbing encounter began when Elawante claimed he was studying to be a masseuse and would give the woman a massage. And then the story, which is even more ridiculous, he's not a licensed physical therapist, according to sources. Elena Tawante Thursday morning was charged with rape, forcible touching, sexual abuse, according to the complaint. He was granted release supervision during his release at his arraignment and was ordered to stay away from the victim. The NYPD has since suspended him without pay, and the case is subject to an ongoing investigation by the Internal Affairs Bureau. He's on probation. He's
He's
in the
on
police.
probation.
He's gone.
Kick him. Well, there's two problems here. One, I very rarely believe the women with these rape stories. As soon as I hear rape or something like that, immediately I have a million questions come to mind because in all the radio runs that I handled with the rape allegations and everything, it was always made up. There was always some kind of backstory to it. Like that's the problem is that it takes away from the legitimacy of real rapes. Like was it a girlfriend? It was a prostitute. He didn't pay her. So she finds out he's in the academy. He's going to dam him up. Was it, was there something else going on? Or was this a real situation? How long did she wait to call the cops? All these questions run through my mind if it was a legitimate complaint or it's a retaliation complaint, right? So that's the one thing. But then if it is legitimate, you have the problem with the recruit assessment. Like this is the problem that they're having is that the NYPD is in such a deficit for personnel. They have to lower the standards to hire whoever the hell they can. So maybe like you're a little questionable on the psych, but it's like just pass them because we need the bodies to fill the suits, and that's what they're bringing in. So all of these people that they're bringing in that and there's going to be a lot more arrests. I'm sure there's going to be people that are coming in there that that are gang related. It's happened in the past. It's just going to be more frequent, but they maybe would have, if they had the time to vet them further or to really look into it, they wouldn't have even been hired in the first place. So I'd rather have less people that are qualified than, wow, look, we hired the biggest NYPD class in the last 10 years. Like, yeah, that's great. How many of them are total rejects that wouldn't have been hired in any other way? Like what kind of idiots do you have that you're giving a gun to and telling them to go protect the city now?
Yeah, the problem I have with this story is it happened in a motel.
Right.
So, I mean, it didn't say anything about she was given a date rape drug. There was nothing in there about that. So it looks like, per the story, she willingly went with him to this motor inn. So, I mean, what did she think was going to happen? Were they going to play cards? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I mean, shame on him. I mean, I don't know how that maybe the job has changed, but I can tell you when I got hired, all they did was threaten us constantly in the police academy about off-duty conduct. Constantly. They used to tell us, go home, don't go to bars, don't drink, don't do anything for your first 2 years because you will get fired. And if anything comes up in your background you didn't tell us about, or you stub your toe off duty doing something, they don't want to hear it. You're on probation, you're gone.
Yeah. There was a high standard that was expected to be kept. You followed the rules or you were out, and that was it. And it's like you're blowing the lottery if you do that. Like
Yeah.
nobody wanted to sidestep because it was, I mean, you got the best job in the world. You got a front seat to the best circus in the entire world, and then you got 20 years and you have a pension. Why would you throw that away? I don't even understand why these guys do these stupid things and then you throw it away. But I think he just I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I think he's an idiot. He put himself out there and he figured nothing's going to happen. And he learned the hard way that, like I always used to tell my informants, organs was invented for a reason. Don't mess with the women. Stay away from them. We are problems. We cause trouble no matter where you go. Don't tell us nothing. Stay away from us. So, to all the guys in the academy, the domestics are going to jam you up real quick. And the women know if they make an allegation, it has to be taken seriously. It's got to be considered, whether it's real or not. And you're going to find yourself jammed up in the Viper room watching cameras and, unemployed.
There was a guy in my precinct, big mouth, drunk. Always, you could find him 5 minutes after work at the bar. There was a bar right next door to the precinct. So one night he goes out, gets liquored up. We had a PAA that worked in the precinct, and she was an alcoholic. You could smell it coming out of her pores. She didn't show up drinking, but you could smell it from the night before just pouring out of her. So one night he hooks up with her at the local bar, goes back to her apartment in the precinct, right? So she's local. And he wakes up and either A, can't believe what he did, or got into an argument with her. He picks up a bottle from the night before that he had drank and crowns her on the head with it. Hits her in the head with a bottle. So she picks up a can of roach spray and sprays him in the eyes.
Oh,
So somehow the neighbors call the cops, or he gets on the phone and calls 911. The precinct cops show up, and it's the day tour or the midnights, I forget. And he's in his underwear and he wants her locked up, and she's got a knot on her head and she wants him locked up. And the sergeant shows up and he's like, Jesus Christ, what is this? So basically she extorted him. She told him, I mean, this is the 90s. Things were a little different. She told him she wants $1,500. He put on his pants, got in the radio car, went to a bank. He took out $500 with the promise he was going to give her $1,000 for pain and suffering from said knot in the head. And that was the end of it. But I mean, shit like that used to go on. And you're right. I mean, with the NYPD, I mean, the truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. Back in the day, I don't know about what goes on now, but I mean, that's a true story. And I mean, the guy wound up getting promoted to sergeant. And that's another story that goes into my book. But speaking of off-duty conduct, a former New York City police officer was sentenced to 10 years in state prison Monday for for a shooting that left a New Jersey man brain damaged and paralyzed. Hugh Tran will be eligible for parole after 8.5 years. In court, the victim's family said this has turned their lives upside down as their loved one, Kirshan Patel, now needs round-the-clock care. Mr. Patel, 32 years old, he's in a rehab facility in Houston, Texas. Authorities say the former New York City police officer shot Patel in a fit of road rage in Voorhees, New Jersey in May of last year. Tran, who was off duty at the time, having just attended a wedding where the judge said he had been drinking and fired 3 shots from his service weapon. The shooting also caused a 5-car crash at Cooper Road and Route 73, seriously injuring another motorist who spoke about how the incident has dramatically impacted her life and her ability to work as an ICU nurse. Tran pleaded guilty to attempted murder last month. His attorney told the judge he suffers from PTSD.
Please.
He spoke before he was sentenced, apologizing. Patel's family is suing Tran, the mayor, and everyone else. PTSD.
Where'd that guy work? Does it say where?
Yeah. PTSD. From what I was told, the guy worked in the press unit.
Please. He
So
didn't
how
do
the fuck
nothing.
do you have PTSD working in the press unit?
First of all, to get to the press unit, you need a phone call and a half, right? To just
He's
get there.
juiced.
Yeah. So you got to know somebody. And if you know somebody, that means that you probably come out of the academy already taken care of, working in some cushy commands where you have day tours or whatever tour you want. The phone call is made, give him what he wants. And then as soon as you get off probation or even sooner, you get whisked into the press unit. So this guy thinks he's Mr. Tough Guy, big swinging guns over there, decides to get into a road rage incident drunk. What an idiot. You threw your life away. Plus, you ruined these poor people's lives. So, like, they don't hate cops enough. We don't have enough nonsense that people believe our lies that they hate us for. Now you give them a reason to actually hate us, you moron. And the worst part for him is, and I don't know if he knows this or he's found this out already. When cops go to jail, we are not well liked. When like cop killers are, they are like treated like gold. They get their commissaries always have money in them. They get taken care of. They are respected by the rest of the people in jail when they beat up on a cop. They hurt a cop, they shoot a cop. So now you're in jail with all these people and you're surrounded. Hopefully they keep them in solitary confinement, which on its own is horrible. But eventually you're going to go into the mess hall. You're going to be eating. You're going to be with the general population. You're going to get your ass kicked. Like, that's just how it's going to go down. Like, you're going to live for the next 8.5 years.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to use the language that's going to happen, but
well, and then that also
I mean,
ruins the relationship with the NYPD and Jersey cops, right? Because then the
right.
next cop that gets pulled over in New Jersey in that area, they don't want us blowing through there. And you know, some guy, I'm on the job. What are you breaking my balls for? And, you know, you just had a shooting with an off-duty cop. You know, this person sounds like they got brain damage, and you got an ICU nurse who supposedly is really seriously injured. So, you know, it's not a good look for the NYPD.
No, we look like a bunch of retards is what we look like. You know, we're going around just letting rounds go. We're the big boys. We think who the heck we are. We got chips on our shoulders. And that's the reputation that people like that give to the rest of us. You know, like, I hate these guys when you see these stories, or I hear it from like local cops down here. They'll go to pull a cop over and he'll like throw his shield out the window as if that means something, or his like ID card. And he's like, yo, what's up? Like, when I get pulled over, it's like, hey, officer, all the lights are on in the car, hands are on the steering wheel. I'm no longer a cop. I'm off duty. My firearm is here. You know, here's my thing. What do you want me to do? You know, total respect, because it doesn't matter who you are, because one day I might need help when I'm suited up and I'm fighting with somebody, and he might be going to work, or he might be going to the store and he sees me fighting with somebody, or vice versa. That's kind of like the blue line thing, is that we take care of each other. And when you do stupid stuff like destroy, how many people's lives are there? Like 6 people. This poor guy's in a nursing facility now. His life's over because a road rage incident. Control yourself. We're supposed to be in control of our emotions at all times. You want to go and get drunk, knock yourself out, but Uber at home, you moron. What the heck is wrong with that guy?
I was in the police academy with a guy, and this is 38 years ago. He was an upstate guy. He was, you know, in one of the upper counties. Funny. Kind of like a hayseed, like a hick, but funny. And in the, you know how like the police academy, everything is very serious. There's no fucking around. And they would have us, what was the, like you had to get into formation on the, what was that, the muster deck upstairs?
The mustard deck on the roof. Yeah.
So we were on the roof, and what he would do is they would say, all right, open ranks, you know, like you're all lined up. And they would say, take, like, open ranks means like take one step forward. So the instructors can walk through the ranks and inspect your uniform, and you hear open ranks, move. And as we would take that step, he would let go with a fart. I mean, I never met a
Yeah.
guy that could, and everybody was like trying to keep it together. He's a funny guy. Nobody I would hang out with, but he was a funny guy. So anyway, he does his field training. I don't know where he did his field training, but he winds up going to the 4.6 or the 4.4, but I think it was the 4.6. Now, the 4.4, if you didn't have a hook in my day, if you didn't have a hook, you wanted to go to a heavy house in the Bronx, you wanted to go to the 4.4 and 4.6 because 4.4 was always leading, was up there and leading the city in homicides. 4.6 was always behind because 4.6 is a little small, but just as dangerous. And best cops in the Bronx, just my opinion. 4.7 too. 4.7 didn't get the credit that it deserved, but the 4.7 was a violent precinct. But anyway, there was a thing with rookie cops when they would go to the 4.4 or the 4.4 or the 4.6. You'd see it with some young guys. The hairbags would get a hold of them, and within 6 months, they're talking out of the side of their mouth. They're hairbags, you know what I mean? Like, and I'd run into them in Bronx Central booking, like, all right, I worked in the 4.2, say I had a gun collar, and it's like, oh, I had 5 of those last week. Like,
Yeah.
they get very hairy, you know what I mean? Like, we work in the 4.4, you work in the 4.6, but you don't. Not all the cops are like that. I have utmost respect for both those precincts. I've called 13s in those places. The cops were there like that. It's the young guys that go to these precincts that mimic the hairbags. So anyway, I don't know if that's what happened to him, but what winds up happening is, I don't know if he was on probation or a little after probation. There was a cop's funeral. I don't remember which one. And he went with a bunch of guys from his precinct and probably got liquored up. And he's going home. I think it was on the Deegan. Becomes a road rage incident with him and another guy cutting each other off. Pulls out the gun. I don't know if he let his shot go, but I think he just let the guy see the gun, like, don't fuck with me. So what's the guy do? The guy gets his license plate, calls the police. I guess upstate New
Baby.
York, the state troopers or wherever department. I'm on the job. I'm a member of the New York City Police Department. Hello, New York City Police Department. They send a couple of detectives up there from internal affairs. He lost his job. Now, thank God he didn't shoot anybody, but you're right. He threw away his lottery ticket.
Yeah, these guys don't in a second, it happens that quickly. But there was a lot of times when we had like, the trips on the boat. You take the fish boat with the precinct and you go out and you go fishing and stuff and all that, the Christmas parties. Like
Yeah.
I remember one time there was like a Christmas party and luckily I wasn't feeling good. I had a bad headache and it was just I wasn't in the mood for it, so I left. But everything all hell broke loose at this party, and everybody who was at the party ended up having like an IAB investigation. And it's like cops and alcohol, it never mixes well together. And everybody at that party, and I'm like, I'm never going to another precinct function ever again, like. And anyway, most of the time it's never on my RDI, it's never on my day off, right? You got to like take a day off or whatever. So I'm like, I'm never going to another function again because these guys just, you get out of control, you act stupid. There's always a female involved, right? Once again, the women are the problem. The guys start fighting. Next thing you know, fisticuffs, stepping outside. I mean, and not for like I got involved in something. Like there was like a bunch of kids that we were out at a bar, just like hanging out, just my team and I. And like some guy like bumps one of the guys on my team and is like, yo, what's up? And he's like, what's up with you? Like, not even wanting to get, and this guy just kept pushing and pushing. So next thing we know, tempers flare, they're outside. So we're trying to separate them or whatever. Like, then somebody calls the cops. So I felt like I was a teenager again. I'm like, oh, the cops are here. We gotta get
Yeah,
out of
get
here.
the fuck
Like
out of
running,
here.
like we're just gonna go to another bar and order a drink and everybody act calm and, wipe the sweat from running. But it's like, you just don't do stupid stuff. I don't know how many times you gotta tell these new guys, don't be dumb. Cops' funerals, it's like, it's a heavy thing, right? It's heavy when you go to these cops' funerals because we all know that could be us in 2 seconds. It could have been us. Why wasn't it us? Like all those thoughts run through your head, but you got to learn how to control yourself. You lose your ability to have your freedom when you're a cop. That's just how it is. You got to watch what you post on social media. I took my Facebook down when I was a cop. I didn't want anything to do with that. You got to watch drinking. You got to watch off-duty incidents. Kiss your wife's ass the whole time you're on the job. This is the stuff you got to do because otherwise you're looking for trouble and you're throwing away health. And I mean, like we have a good considering for instead of the private sector. I can't complain. These guys are, but I got lucky though. I didn't really run into any problems. I didn't know anybody who had crazy problems with that, but these things happen.
But you talk about cops' funerals. Oh God, I've seen a couple of things. the 4-4 crime team got jammed up. This is early in my career, and one of my best friends worked in the 4-4. Went to a cop's funeral. I think it was Busick and Hoban were killed on the same day. It was October of 1988, and a bunch of guys from the 4-4 went to one of the funerals, and on the way back, we're cutting through Central Park. Now, for those of you that don't know, you can drive through Central Park in Manhattan, and a lot of times it's closed for cyclists and joggers and rollerbladers. Well, the people that live in Manhattan think that park is theirs. And if you ever cut through there in a marked police car, and I've seen them give shit to EMTs driving through there, they'll start cursing and screaming at you. Police cars going by, they're doing 20 miles an hour, and hey, the park's closed. It's like, fuck you, we're the police, right? So what wound up happening was someone said something to the cops, and they said, "Oh yeah," and it had just rained a day or two before, and they went into the Great Lawn and started doing donuts and tore up. I think it was Strawberry Fields of the Great Lawn, but did a number on it. Bring the RMP, Radio Motor Patrol car, bring it back to the 4-4, sign out and go home. Well, people in Manhattan, this is pre-cell phones or anything, they got the four numbers of the police car. They got they call IB. IB shows up at the precinct, and of course, the car is covered in mud.
Right. They didn't take it to the car wash and hose
No,
it off? No.
no.
You
So what
gotta
winds up happening is the 4-4 guys sneaking out and calling their friends, because some of these guys, I think it was the crime team, but they were off that day, and like, whatever you do, don't be home, because they're going to probably get you for drunk driving or unfit for duty if you consume too much alcohol. So they started calling these guys' houses, and they didn't get any of them. So what wound up happening is they came into work the next day feigning what happened, and they all got jammed up. One guy went to Queens, one guy went to Brooklyn. Like they highway therapy.
highway
They
therapy.
transferred them all over the city.
Yeah, you can't like I got once in a while you get details in Manhattan, and coming from like, my precinct, which is like a different animal. Manhattan, I mean, except for like Manhattan North, where, you're in like the projects and stuff, it's a different animal there. Those people, like I was going down the street and somebody was blocking the road or something. So, we're doing the whoop whoop and they're not moving, or any double park. And, they're like these rich people who think who the hell they are. So I stick my head out the window and I'm like, yo, get the fuck out of the way. And the whole street stops. All the people are looking at me. And it's like, I killed somebody. And I'm like, I can't deal with this Manhattan thing. Bring me back to my people in the ghetto. I can't deal with this. You can't speak to those people in a certain way. It's like, it's ridiculous. But I don't know, the whole thing with the drinking. I mean, I've gone to funerals. A guy that I work with was killed. Brian Moore was murdered or whatever, and his funeral was like, I don't even remember half of it because it was just heavy stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course I'm gonna Simonson. His funeral was like 8 degrees. So we're standing out there and there's tens of thousands of us. And I'm like, the only way to stay warm is to run into the bar and have a quick shot, because I'm like, I'm not working technically. I'm in uniform, but I'm not actually working. I'm here on my own time. So why not? And I think it was at that funeral that on the train home, some big boss saw somebody drinking in uniform and like made a big deal of it and everything. And it's like, I hear why they're doing that. They want to control us because obviously some of us can't be controlled, but on funerals and stuff. But yeah, you can't do stupid stuff in Manhattan, and be careful at the funerals because it's a hard time. It's hard, especially when you know the guy or whatever. And, but the drinking is always going to get you jammed up. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
I almost went, and this is before your time. I think it was 94 or 95 when they had the police convention or memorial down in Washington, D.C. And there was a lot of shit going on with people sliding down the escalator naked and all sorts of crazy shit. And a lot of people got jammed up over, and I almost went. And for whatever reason, I didn't go. And I remember so many of my friends were terrified that whatever they did was going to come back to bite them in the ass. And if there's anyone watching this podcast from the New York City Police Department that went to that said event, come on, the statute of limitations is over. I'd love to have you on a podcast because I've heard bits and pieces of what went on down there, but I would like someone on the record because I'm sure it would make for an interesting podcast.
Yeah, I still have, I don't know if you had it like when you were a cop, you'd like have the dream where you like smoked weed. and you had to go to work and you got told or whatever. You have
Oh,
like these nightmares. You never had a night like an anxiety nightmare? I have these nightmares that like I went out and I smoked weed, or I was at a party and I was breathing in weed, and then I went to work and I had to get dole tested, and like, oh my, and I wake up and it's like, oh, thank God that was just a dream. Like this crazy anxiety. You never had like those anxiety
no,
dreams? Like
I
you got too
no,
drunk and you're like, what did I do?
no, I had dreams where I was in court and they were asking me questions and I totally forgot what
What
was going
happened?
on in the courtroom and I was unprepared. I have dreams to this day every now and then that I'm questioning, should I retire or not? And do I have enough did I make enough overtime? And it's like I'm kind of like in flux. Do I really want to go? And I guess that was my mindset 18 years ago, and that I really was torn about retiring. But no, that I've never had those dreams. But my I still have them about the job every now. They're not nightmare. I've never had a nightmare, but more about retirement.
Well, I had a nightmare actually the other night. I had a nightmare that I had to go back because my retirement,
I
I
have
like
those.
didn't fill out the paperwork.
Yes.
So I have to go back or something, right? And I go to like my old office and like other people in my office and they're like, yeah, we don't have a desk here anymore. So I'm like, all right, I'll go do patrol. What's the big deal? But then it's like, wait, I don't have a uniform, right? Like my locker, like what, like all these stupid like anxiety. And you wake up, it's like, oh, thank the Lord. But I don't know. I don't know why I have those. It's like the job just doesn't, it doesn't
It
leave you.
does think.
It doesn't, I don't know if I could drop an F-bomb on here. It's like a
Yeah, go
live stream.
ahead.
I try not to, but it's like a buddy of mine that I used to work with, he had a sign up. He's like, I love this fucking job and this job loves fucking me. And it's like, still in retirement, I'm still like dealing with the anxiety of like, cause like in the academy, you can't be late for nothing. You have to be, there is no such thing as traffic. There is no such thing as the train was delayed. That you are not allowed to be late. So I think it was the first time we went to Rodman's Deck, which is where you go to practice with your firearm, right? You got to go into the Bronx over the bridge. And then there's like this other like little bridge. I don't know where
Yeah,
it is. It's like a little bridge
to the
that like
island.
for like stupid little boats to get onto City Island, right? So very rarely it would be up. So we leave ourselves like 3 hours to get there, me and the three other guys that were in my company, right? So we have way more than enough time. But for some reason, they had some little schooner boat thing get like stuck at the bridge. So the thing is up. So we literally like, I think we turned the car off because it was taking so long to get through. So we end up being late by like 3 minutes. Like I called the range. I'm like, we're here, we're stuck. The bridge is open, whatever. And they're like, yeah, I don't care. Figure it out. Like, what am I supposed to swim across the river? So we run to get to the thing. So we weren't like dilly dallying, we're running across the thing. I see our company is already lined up. We fall into the company and the guy comes up to us and he's like, I want a deportment card. Remember they had those, you had two
Dark
deportment
cards.
cards, right? Yeah. And they would pull them. And if you got it pulled, then you have to go to like the fifth floor,
Six ten.
it was 610. I thought it was 510. All right, 610 maybe in the academy and like explain why you got this card
Yeah.
pulled. And they pulled our cards because we were like 3 minutes late or whatever. It was the stress of the academy of being where you had to be, and then even details. You got to detail. You got to be here. You got to make sure you're there on time. You got to be prepared. You have to have all your equipment. It's like hats and bats and whatever else you need. It was fun, but that stuff was really stressful. And I think you want to talk about PTSD. I think I have PTSD from the NYPD, like a nervous wreck, making sure I got all my stuff squared away.
I remember there was a pitcher. This is before your time. No, maybe about the time you got hired. There was a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves by the name of John Rocker, and he's a hayseed hillbilly from Georgia. And this reporter Jeff Pearlman from Sports Illustrated basically set him up and was asking him questions he knew he was going to bite. He's a good old boy from the South, and the guy did not like pitching in New York. He didn't like the New York fans, and he made a bunch of derogatory comments about minorities and gays. So, of course, the papers ran with it. And the next time the Braves were coming to Shea Stadium, they had this massive detail of OCCB there because they thought the fans were going to like tear up the seats and beat this guy's ass. So anyway, you're talking about the way like the job treats cops. We get to this detail and they got inspections all over the place. And most of the cops that were working this detail work in OCCB, Organized Crime Control Bureau. So it's guys with hair past the collar, 5 o'clock shadow, and they've got inspections everywhere. And they're just picking guys off. And there was a fence you had to walk around. So after inspections grabbed like the second guy, we're screaming because they had to have like they probably had 1,000 cops, and we're screaming into the parking lot, "Save yourselves! Come back later!" The guys are like, "What?" And they're walking in, they're just pulling them off the line and giving this guy a CD for his hair, and this guy's wearing referee shoes, and this one. You're right.
Well, they have their quotas too. They gotta give out a certain amount of CD command discipline. So you get like time taken from you or whatever, and it goes on your record. But yeah, they have to. It was the shoe fly, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
shoe fly come
Well,
into
it
the
was
precinct.
inspections. I think it was borough inspections that were grabbing us.
Yeah, so like at the precinct level, you would have those guys come out and they would follow you to jobs. So like when I was working, we had a whole big thing with like our union delegate. I think it had to do with that Christmas party where everybody got drunk and so we had inspections following us to jobs and they would go from job to job to job, make sure you got out. Did you put your hat on as soon as you got out of your RMP, right? Did you go up to the door? Did you handle it? Did you put the final over before you left the scene? You have to, you got to put the final or the job, whatever happened there. Did you take a report? Is it nothing? Whatever. Did you put it over before you left the scene? All this other nonsense. And for every little thing, they would give you a hit and they would come into the precinct and like inspect the cells. If they found like a little bag of weed in the corner of the cells, the desk sergeant gets a
Oh,
hit. And it was just like a hassle. So you had some shoe flies that were cool, but like in transit when I first came out, in the subway in the summertime, it's 115 degrees down there. You're allowed to wear shorts, but it doesn't matter. You're just dying. So like I remember guys would tell me, don't take your hat off to wipe the sweat because a shoe fly sees you take your hat off to wipe your sweat, you're going to get a hit. Like really crazy. During 9/11, the shoe flies were out giving hits to guys who were falling asleep on their post because they were doing 16, 18, 20 hours at a clip, face-to-face relief. And they would give, yeah, the job, it's like, we always talk about how much fun it was and the crazy funny stories, but like the harassment from all the other things. And it's like, like now when the young kids were coming on, like the girls would have the nails, like out to here. It's like, how are you going to make a fist and punch somebody with these nails? The hair was down. It was touching, like purple hair, bright red nail polish. It's like you're going to get hits for that, but they got a little soft. I think they weren't as heavy as when I first came on, the inspections guys.
you want to talk about being put in a no-win situation after 9/11? They it was an OCCB post, and auto crime basically had it all the time. It's over by Silver Cup Studios,
Yeah.
just outside of Astoria. I guess that's Long Island City. There's a
Yeah,
there's a
like
train
59th Street
station.
Bridge.
Okay. Past that, there's a subway station. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's an industrial area, and it's a direct line into Manhattan. So the thought was that they were afraid Al Qaeda was going to blow up this tube. So they had a cop in Manhattan on one side and a cop in the other, round the clock. When I tell you it was an industrial area, so after 5, 6 o'clock, no one's around. It's just you, the token booth clerk, and the rats. And it was cold as fuck in the wintertime. And I remember the bathroom, you needed a key from the token booth clerk, and it was
Right.
disgusting.
It's
It
disgusting.
was absolutely, you weren't sitting down on that thing. I could tell someone could come up and get you. So I just, and then, but okay, but but the shoe flies. So they would always send a boss from auto crime at least once a day to scratch you. The precinct sergeant would come by and scratch you. The duty captain would scratch you. And there was they created some position for some jerk off at one police plaza that went around to these high profile, dangerous posts. And I mean, to stay awake,
Yeah.
just there was
Doing
nothing, not
nothing.
even people to talk to or interact with. And the token, most of the time, I hate to say this, but the token booth clerk, so a lot of times were skells. They didn't want you in that booth with them. So you
No.
were just kind of out there. And you couldn't sit and it was cold. I remember because I got that a lot of times in the wintertime. And they put you in these no-win situations and then they nitpick you.
Yeah.
It's like daring you. It's like Fear Factor. Like they set you up to fail and then they
They
fuck with you constantly.
You're talking about the Omega Post because we had that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. That's what
subways.
it sounds like.
You'd have to like we eventually when I came on in transit, we got like a chair. So you had like a chair that you'd be able to like
Oh,
take a break and
chair.
sit down on, right? You had like a chair and so you'd sit down and like take a break. But those posts were a 4-hour overtime pre-tour and 4-hour post-tour. So you're already tired and you got to go sit on this post and do nothing. And during the blackout, the first day of the blackout, I happened to be driving the boss that day. So we were going and, taking people out of the
You worked the
subways.
blackout?
Oh yeah, that was crazy in the subway. So like the subways are shut down, right? So I didn't tell you the story. So the blackout happens, right? I'm in the subway, the precincts in the subway, they call them districts, transit districts, right? They're in the subway station, right? So you're underground, you got no idea what's going on. So I'm in the roll call room waiting for the boss to finish up what he's doing before we go out. And I go to get a soda, and like the machine's not giving me nothing. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'm kicking the machine. And then all of a sudden I look out and I see that the lights are out on the subway platform. So the rest of the day for 14, 15 hours, we're removing people from that are trapped in the subways down the tunnel, like using the light from my flip phone because my flashlight battery died, trying to evacuate people. It was like absolute chaos, dripping sweat. I went into a bar to use the bathroom because that was the only place that was open. He was like, you want a beer? I'm like, later. But so the next day I get assigned to probably the same post you were at. It was like on the G line or something. Nobody's around. There's no power, right? So there's nothing around. You couldn't go into the subway. We had like caution police tape across the thing. So I'm there for like 14 hours and I'm like, where's face-to-face relief? Now, this is like 2003, right? So cell phones are kind of scratchy. I've been there for like 13 hours. My battery is dying. And I'm like, yo, they forgot about me because normally they would come around with a van and they would bring you your relief and then you'd hop in the van and take the ride and then go back to the command. So I'm on one side of Queens and my command is over by the Van Wyck. So I'm like miles and miles away. And I'm like, yo, they forgot about me. And then now I'm there 16 hours, 18 hours. I'm like, yo, they forgot about me. So I commandeer a livery. I'm like, yo, I need a ride. I got an emergency, right? I commandeer a livery guy. The guy's like, oh, you have an emergency? I'm like, yeah, I got an emergency. Hit the gas. So we drive down like Roosevelt Avenue flying. I'm like, go faster. It's an emergency, right? Because I'm like, I'm done with this because I got to be back I got another 12-hour tour. I'm like, screw this. So we're driving. So we get to the command and I threw the guy like $20 or whatever I had on me. And I go downstairs and they're like, why are you still here? I'm like, why am I still here? You bastards forgot about me. You left me on my post. But those, they were like, all right, rookie, stop your bitching. They didn't really care. But those Omega posts were like a fixture. And one was like underneath, I think it was the 59th Street Bridge. There was one underneath there. It was a little booth. They had air conditioning. So we had one guy that we work with in transit. He was like 7 feet tall, 450 pounds. And somebody tried to hop the turnstile and he maced the person and it happened to be a pregnant woman. And like rule number one, you never mace a pregnant woman, right? So everybody's laughing at him because they're like, you're enormous. You couldn't just like control a pregnant woman. He's like, I'm not putting my hands on a pregnant woman. And they're like, so you mace her?
Mace
Like
her?
what? Like, what is it? So they're like, all right, we got to like take this guy off the road and put him somewhere. So they put him in this Omega post for like the duration of his career because he was like
Right.
on his
They're
way out.
afraid
He had
he's
like
gonna
19
fucking hurt
years on like,
somebody.
yeah, like you're just going to stay in here. So he made that place his home. Like you would go there to give him a meal relief. He had a little refrigerator. He had a little TV set up. His wife must have made him like a curtain he had to like swing across the back window so nobody could see in behind him. That place was like his home. This guy lived there. And it was like, that was his spot. He had his own little Omega post. So every day he just went out on his own. He went to his post and he hung out there. It was classic stuff. But yeah, those Omega posts were brutal. You're just stuck there with no relief and nobody cares.
I definitely miss the job, but I don't miss things like that. And
Yeah.
that definitely was one of the low points of my career doing that. I'm going to wrap this up. I can't thank you enough for being my co-host today. Please tell our listeners the name of your book and where they can pick up a copy.
Well, thank you, Vic. I love being on with you. We got to do this again. I always have a great time with you. We have a lot of laughs. My book is 20 and out. It doesn't make as good of a Christmas gift as Vic's do. Vic's books are way funnier, but you can find it on Amazon, hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And then you can also check me out at Mons on the Mic on YouTube and Spotify. And not too much cop stuff, but we do all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories and CIA stuff and reading between the lines of what's going on in the news.
Well, I did order your book today in paperback, so
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to reading it.
You're the one. Appreciate
What's
it.
that?
You're the one. I appreciate it.
You're one sale for the day. Yeah, you're one sale for the day. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
As always, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, especially my listeners in Edinburgh, Clifton Park, New Jersey, Hempstead, New York, Sacramento, California, Sandpoint, Idaho, and Sparta, New Jersey. If you work in law enforcement or have an interesting criminal background, please drop me a note on Twitter or Instagram at VicFerrari50. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you enjoy the content, check out my Amazon author page, type in my name, Vic, Ferrari like the car, where you can preview all my NYPD books for free. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this live stream. Take care. I'll see you next week.